Dreams make it happen wherever you go.
Are you ready to act on your dreams?
Okay, let's do it.
It is a great day to be in Hyphens Haven, the space for multi-hyphenate artists working on stage and off in front of the camera and behind the scenes. We share our paths to becoming who we are. In this episode, we are joined by an artist who has made her mark in film, TV, and theater. A few of the shows she has acted in include The Good Fight, Law and Order, The Sopranos, Medium, Friends, The Practice, ER, X-Files, NYPD Blue. In fact, she has performed in 50 or so other episodes of television. Some of her Broadway acting credits include Indecent, Act One, Brooklyn Boy, I'm Not Rappaport, Revival, and she has served as choreographer for Broadway's Act One, The Snow Geese at MTC, and Merchant of Venice. And at the New York Shakespeare Festival at the Delacorte Theater in the Park, Comedy of Errors, As You Like It, Cymbeline, All's Well That Ends Well, 12th Night. She has led as president of the Blue Card Holocaust Survivor Charity in New York, benefiting destitute Holocaust survivors, which she has brought from about $300,000 a year in funds to $2 million when she left just a few years ago. Additionally, for the past 2 decades, she has been teaching a private, highly respected scene study class in New York, of which I am a product of, and has taken up gardening in upstate New York, particularly veggies. So it is my esteemed pleasure to introduce this multi-hyphenate artist, Mimi Lieber. Hi, Mimi. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to see you. And as I just mentioned, I am a product of her class, and I'm grateful to have met her. She has left a positive mark on my life, and I'm just so excited that I have the opportunity to shine a light on this amazing, multifaceted, multi-hyphenate artist that is my teacher, Mimi Lieber. So as we want the audience to get to know who you are, we always begin at your genesis. So what is your given name and where were you born?
My real name is my professional name. I should have changed it to something much more interesting, but Mimi Lieber. Lieber is my dad's name. His first name was Coleman, and I should have done Mimi Coleman when I started. And then people wouldn't have gone, Jewish girl. But I kept my name.
Okay.
And where?
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in Los Angeles. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, as were all my family, going back to even grandparents, some. And but I was raised from the time I was a toddler in Los Angeles.
Okay. What were the professions of your parents? And can you give their full names as well?
Coleman Lee Lieber was, by the time I was aware of anything, a high school teacher, and later also a college teacher. And he had gone to law school, and the war happened, and he came home and was with my mother and had to start earning a living and did other things, and eventually became a teacher, which he was meant to be. And my mom, not right away in her early marriage and having 4 babies, but she was a reservations agent for TWA, which was fantastic for her 4 kids who traveled all over the world on a $10 first class surcharge. And you just go, Mom, I have like 50 extra bucks from work. Where can I go this weekend? You'd go to Hawaii. It was, so that's what she did for a very long time. And I've just lost her this year. She had a full, good life.
My condolences and sending thoughts of love to you and your family. And yes, blessings to her, and for mentioning her name. Do you recall a favorite?
Her name was Francesca.
Yes.
Francesca Brown was her maiden name.
Yes, so Francesca Brown, we speak your name, we honor you, and thank you for your life and for blessing us with this wonderful child named Mimi, who is in front of me, and I'm so blessed to speak to her today. So, do you recall a favorite childhood holiday with your siblings and your parents?
My God, when you're little, you love them all. I probably loved the food holidays most. And in our world, that would have really been Thanksgiving and Passover, which was just great, great food. But Thanksgiving was at my great aunt's house. And she was very fancy and lived in Beverly Hills. And those were kind of special Thanksgivings. And we celebrated Christmas because it was my grandmother's birthday, but we didn't have a tree. And Christmas was better presents than Hanukkah. Hanukkah, you get like a book, gloves, but Christmas, you got a bike. Anyway, so those would be the big ones. Really, Passover, Thanksgiving, Christmas. That's
Okay.
it.
And thinking about your early learning days as we're still in your childhood, what elementary school did you attend and who was your favorite teacher from that time?
I attended Chandler Street Elementary School, which was in the San Fernando Valley in LA, in Sherman Oaks. And the greatest teacher of all time was Fred Lambert. He was my 6th grade teacher. He called me Mamie Van Doren. He played with everybody's names. He got us on our feet and singing constantly. He was so alive and so smart and made me curious about everything. And he made it exciting to learn. Unforgettable guy.
Really? Was there a particular moment, as you mentioned this favorite teacher, was there a moment that happened in elementary, or you said middle school,
that was elementary?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was elementary, that you held on to, some particular memory you had?
Elementary school was hard. I was super skinny, had buck teeth, curly hair. Everyone had straight hair. And everyone developed earlier. But I had great girlfriends and like Fred Lambert, a couple of teachers that I adored. But, my parents got divorced in those years. What I mostly remember was friendship.
Friendship.
Good lifelong friendships.
Okay.
And realizing I skipped grades. I was a great reader. Realizing my skills with language and reading was a big part of it.
That's awesome. You skipped 1 or 2 grades.
I know I skipped half of the 1st or 2nd grade and half of the 3rd grade. And really it was because, the kids were stumbling over those readers. And I was like done with it, bored, waiting for someone to painfully finish one sentence, So yeah.
Wow.
So that was good to recognize the feel for language and English.
That's awesome. Showing your gifted talent, even as an elementary school student. So now that you have skipped over a grade here or half a grade here and then another half a grade there, and you're moving towards your middle school years, where did you go to middle school? And was there a particular teacher in middle school that you particularly just adored?
It was the same school district. Unlike my siblings, I'm the youngest, so I was in the same school district from beginning to end. And the drama teacher was an extraordinary woman. I think still is an extraordinary woman named Louise Cabral. And man, the people that came together in that class, we are all still friends. And we did productions. We did the Shakespeare Festival and the Drama Festival every year. And our group won 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place every year. She made us Shakespeareans. And we found ourselves. And when there was a teacher's strike that lasted a full year, which was, thank you, Governor Ronald Reagan, that woman told us all sort of secretly, take my English class in 5th period and turned it into a drama class. So we would continue to have drama. She was a huge influence.
And what year was this? This is your 6th, 7th, or the 8th grade year?
It was 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's how it was then.
Okay.
Middle school was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Oh, fascinating. So, because we're so accustomed to high school beginning at 9th grade, but that was all clustered together.
Yeah.
And 7th, 8th, 9th, you are introduced to this amazing drama teacher, and she is basically showing you a new side of yourself, learning about.
It wasn't new to me or my family. I mean, I'd been putting shows on since I was, 6 or 7, and making tickets and charging admission with my sister and some friends. But she really brought focus and understanding and scholarship. And I mean, she directed us far too much. In a professional situation today, that would just never fly, but she shaped us and molded us. And that was what we needed to move forward. It was great. And also an English comp teacher. I loved my English comp.
And as you mentioned that you led productions, I don't want to gloss over that fact that you were making tickets for your
when I was teeny, when I was 7, 8, 9, yeah.
Wow, did someone teach you that?
No, you go to movies, they take your ticket, you know what they look like, because there's a raffle afterwards. So we, my sister and neighbors and I would put on, The Wizard of Oz and, oh my God, I can't even remember, huge productions with somebody's poodle as Toto, and I directed, and I got like the juicy part. I would do the Wicked Witch or whatever was the most fun part. So and the neighbors all came.
This is so cool to hear that you are laying a foundation for yourself, even as a tiny Mimi creating these productions, and then going into middle school, meeting a teacher who is giving you yet more of a foundation that you're building on. And now you're transitioning into high school with yet these skills. So what high school did you attend? Was it still
that same school district?
Okay.
This time, I guess, the town's names have changed in LA as real estate has changed and gotten expensive, but it was sort of North Hollywood, and it was Grant High School. And the drama teacher there was Rodna Schutz, who was herself a serious Shakespearean. And we did not love her as much as Louise Cabral in junior high, which she would have been a tough act to follow for anybody. But she was serious and worked in the summers at Ashland Shakespeare Festival and continued our Shakespeare knowledge. And we also did, like The Man Who Came to Dinner. Oh, and I was the sort of, big star, and I had braces and an afro, except not by then. In junior high, I was Lady Bracknell with Lady Bracknell in The Importance of Being Earnest, and with an afro and Victorian choker and English, old English lady in braces. And then in high school, the braces were still there, and it was The Man Who Came to Dinner and lots of other things. It was a lot of fun. I was busy with friends and boyfriends in high school. Really?
And what type of student were you as you were taking on your artistic level to a new height? And
it was all I believed in and I knew I was going to do. And so I had a kind of laissez-faire attitude about the things I really needed to apply myself to that didn't come as naturally. So me and math have never been friendly, ever. And I would say ridiculous things to the algebra teacher, like, I'm going to have an accountant. I don't need this. I'm going to be an actor. I'm never going to do my own taxes. My parents were not fancy people. They were real, just working class people, and they weren't like that. But I just knew that's what I was going to do. And I thought these kinds of things were a waste of my time. But then I did not very well on my SATs, and I went straight into acting school and did not go to a 4-year university.
Okay. Before you went to your 4-year university, did you have to work?
Always.
As you always had to work?
I had, my first job was at 14, and I worked at Ambrose Broasted Chicken. And, like receiving orders on the phone. And then I worked in retail stores, lied and said I was 18 when I was 15, again, with the braces. And was selling really nice clothes. I always had jobs, always, including and well into my TV career. Later on, I was teaching or casting commercials. I'm jumping in time. I don't know if you want me to.
No,
But
please.
I always had a straight gig. My students now call it a muggle job. I always had a muggle job.
Just to make sure that you're able to
Make ends meet.
If needed.
And I would sometimes wear many hats in one day. If for years, being a commercial casting director was my waitressing gig, because I had it with the waitressing gigs. I worked in rock and roll places in New York City and on the Sunset Strip. And, it was a wild time, and it was the mid 70s, mid to late 70s. It was a pretty fun time, but also a dark time. And because of drugs everywhere. And when I was done with that, and I managed to get a job as a casting assistant directing sessions. And then that led to years after directing sessions, thousands of sessions. I was behind the desk choosing actors, for commercial casting. And that was a great job. I could get up and go to an audition, across town, and come back and finish my day, finish my session. And it had a lot of honor and creativity to it. And so there was just nothing demeaning, and a little bit of power, which felt good, not to abuse, but I wasn't bringing somebody a drink and having them tell me I got it wrong when I hadn't,
Fascinating. So before you, so you moved from LA to New York because you did not go to a 4-year institution. You went straight into acting school.
I graduated early from high school by taking classes earlier in the morning than the larger population. And about 6 months before they all graduated in June, a friend and I took off for Europe for a year.
Wow.
So the night of my high school prom and the high school graduation, I remember we were on a beach somewhere in Portugal, kind of, doing the old.
Doing what you did.
Not shove it or anything, but yeah, just sort of like, see ya, suckers. Yeah.
So how did you transition back to the United States from Portugal?
Oh, I was all over Europe, all over. I worked on a grape harvest in France, best education any young person could ever get. And I earned every penny of it with my jobs, one of which was drawing blood for a living. I was a certified venipuncture technician, and I got $1 a draw. And this is like in high school.
My goodness.
I had an emergency blood vehicle. And I do the rounds of hospitals and nursing hospitals, which was really depressing. Call my mom when I was 16, crying because the old man whose blood I was drawing died or had a heart attack while I was doing it. Or, one woman was so lonely and I was like her granddaughter, and I'd call my mother crying, and it was maybe 7 a.m, and then go to school, go to my last year of high school or last semester. But anyway, so was all bumming all over Europe, and then came back, and it was sort of like, I got to do something. So I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
And it seems all of these life experiences that you're having is almost setting you up for the characters that you will play. because you have played a multitude of characters with various backgrounds. So all of the events that you've went through have served a purpose in
It's
developing
really true.
your artistry. So
True.
did your first major work come to you? Was it in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, or did you graduate from there and then get your first?
I did graduate, but just prior to that, one of the teachers, they were all professionals, and somebody was making a movie and gave a couple of us jobs. And I don't know how I knew to do that. I mean, I was cheeky. And I said a line. We were just supposed to be extras. And I was a hooker getting busted at the police station. And I said something smart to one of the cops. And so they had to Taft-Hartley me, which was, in those days, I had to be admitted to the union because I spoke. And it was a smart, mouthy thing to do. And then I moved to New York and did a lot of little things, and even extra work. In those days in New York, you'd be a SAG member, but you could do extra work, and they were always special too. I did too. And then one day we read in Backstage magazine, there was an audition for the movie Hair and the movie Grease. And we stood in those long lines at those huge Broadway theaters and did the choreography. Oops, so sorry, phone ringing. Husband, please answer phone. Excuse me.
It's okay. This is why I love holding, just talks like this, because, we can take in life as it happens and we can just keep going. So no worries here.
I just hung up on a really long-time girlfriend. Yeah, so I went to that Grease audition and got it. And that was the craziest thing ever. It was 1977, came out in 78. We had no idea it was going to be what it was, which was the largest grossing album and movie at that time of forever. And it held it for a long time. And the year before, I was an extra in Saturday Night Fever. So I was in 2 big Johnny movies, John Travolta.
Mm-hmm.
And the Grease experience was really a kick in the pants into professional world in the best way. Silly movie, dancer. But my God, we met everybody and everyone was very welcoming when it was over.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you had your own way of getting into SAG by Taft-Hartley, which is very cool how you got into SAG. And then you were able to get these positions with Grease and Saturday Night Live. So it seems like things are happening. And what has been your favorite position immediately after Grease? Because that was the first one that opened the world to you. So it seems that more is about to happen.
It was a good, big, fat credit. And even though we were principal dancers on it, we were throughout the film. We were in every scene of the movie. And so it was a great entree. And I got an agent somehow and a commercial. One of the producers of Grease introduced me to a commercial casting person, went to one audition for 7-Up, got flown to San Francisco. 3 days later, my scene was up. So I had 3 days in San Francisco, like on a per diem. And I made so much money on that commercial. For so much money, I'm talking about me in my early 20s for that time. But, it was just terrific. And many, many more followed. I sort of was in style for once in my life. And there was a moment where it was a good thing to be of some indiscernible origin and with long, full curly hair and cute bod and all that stuff. But anyway, and then I started doing television. And those days it was like 1 gig a year. And the auditions mean far too much when they're far too few. And but you know, I also got involved with a theater in LA that I did many, many plays with, the Odyssey Theater. And over the course of 20 years, I was as close to a company member as I guess anybody had in those days, and did a lot of fantastic, really experimental theater and Greek stuff, and had opportunities that I don't know if I would have had staying in New York and scratching my way up the off to off, Broadway ladder. I don't know. Who knows what would have happened? And then I started getting a lot of TV work, and a lot. I could represent you in a court of law right now and operate on your brain. These are my many professions. Oh, somewhere in there, I married a French person and lived in Paris. But yeah, lots and lots of good TV work and the occasional film. But I was a guest star right away. I never went from co-star. I just ended up being guest star and recurring, and did pilots. And that was great. That was a wonderful period of, enormous confidence and difficulty. I mean, those things are hard when you test for pilots and you don't get them, and you work that hard, and you're made to feel like it's going to be you. And I did that for a very long time, taught a little in those years, did a lot of theater in those years, both at the Guthrie and a national tour, a Broadway show, and the director of that national tour is the man who way later became my husband. I mean, later, we didn't notice each other that way at all. He was just, Director Dan, and I hoped he wouldn't fire me. Mm-hmm. And so I had these fantastic theater experiences in those TV years in LA. Like, I knew to go ahead and leave town and go to the Guthrie for 4 months for that piece of theater, and which was with Jesse Borrego and Don Cheadle, and we were all babies. But and then I moved to New York to be with the man who is now my husband. Because what was I going to do? What came to me was, you have done every guest star you can. I mean, I did a lot of television, not every, obviously. And I thought, what am I sticking around here for when there's this love calling me to do an episode of CSI? That was the new show around when I left LA, just around 2001. I moved to New York, and 9/11 happened 3 days later.
Wow.
Welcome, said the city. And I got a Broadway show, and I got a recurring role on Law and Order. And it was like the universe was saying, you were right to take that magic giant leap. I left my TV career. I left my casting job, which was so cushy. I left my sisters and brothers, my mom, aging mom, and cut to meeting you in my class, and that stream of life, and lots of Broadway shows and television, and a couple of films since I've been here, 20-something years.
You are one of the unique talents because you're able to do both film, or excuse me, more so television. You did some film and theater. Yeah. I know more artists who lean more towards just one and just stick in that space or the other, but you were able to put my foot over here, and I can do something there, and I can do something here. And that's just, fabulous that you had this talent. But from your experience, do you recall a particular favorite moment from working in either TV and film thus far? Because you still have to give.
I'd always wanted to be a theater actor. I wanted to be a Broadway star, in that old anti-meme sense of it. But I also was a hippie, and it was the Vietnam War years when I was in high school. And so when I moved to New York at 20, I wanted to do important, dark, experimental downtown theater with a side of Broadway star, And so I ended up being able to do all those mediums, I think, because my hunger to do theater never wavered. So even in LA, I got myself involved with the best theater company there, and a standout gig. Oh my God. I would say the Greeks at the Odyssey Theater. I played Helen and Athena. And oh my God, there are so many others. Certainly, I have to say now the Heidi Chronicles, because I met Daniel Sullivan, who was the director, who is my now husband. But my first Broadway show was just huge for me, which was I'm Not Rappaport, with Ben Vereen and Judd Hirsch. And it was extraordinary, just because it was like, I finally am on Broadway. And I was 41. And I still I had a beautiful resume, but I hadn't been on Broadway. So those would be big ones. And then my father gave me, when I moved to New York, his copy of Moss Hart's Act One. And I devoured that book. And then years later, I get an audition to play the mother of Moss Hart, who was a Cockney Jewish English woman living in the Lower East Side in the very beginning of the last century. And I mean, who was ever going to give me a chance to be a Cockney, which I'd been doing since I was 7. So in Act One, I got to play this character that I met in my father's book. And B, I got to be this full-blown Cockney woman, and also a sort of very 1930s Hollywood type, like a gossip columnist. So it was all that. Oh yes, of course, yes, he bought me a dog. I'm not doing a good job of it, but a character I'd also been doing since I was a kid, watching all those old movies, my favorite movies, Dinner at 8 and all that. So Act One was very, very special. And the best was certainly my last one, which lasted 4 years, which was Indecent, which felt like terribly, terribly important theater. And it was an honor, a huge honor every night to be in it. You could tell it was beautiful. You could hear the audience being so moved, and I made them laugh a lot, which is my thing, as well as making them cry. And frankly, when we finished that in 19 at the Amundsen Theater in LA, we finished Broadway. We did it in the big theater in LA, which I, as a kid, went to see all the Broadway shows in. So for me, that was, so great. Hometown kid makes good, and I was already 60, 50 something. And then I pretty much retired after that from acting.
So for those who are listening and interested in pursuing a career, being on Broadway, can you describe what your process was once you received this project? You've said yes. What does Mimi do to prepare herself to perform on stage?
Well, because I taught you, but
Yeah.
It's not very different if it's off, or was the theater in LA or a great big Broadway stage. And it varies with part to part and play to play. One is has particular vocal demands, so you're going to make sure you do your vocal warm up, your body warm up, because you've got to stay limber. No matter, even if you're not playing a dancer, being a dancer or playing a limber person. I was already a well into middle-aged lady, and you need to be warm, and you need to be strong, and you need to take exquisite care of your health, because 8 shows, it's the Olympics, 8 shows a week. No one knows. We are athletes, and we are top athletes. So there's that physical stuff, and reading the script a billion times, trying not to make too many decisions in the early phases of reading the script, but then early on, super early, you have to audition for it. So you have to make some strong choices. And then you kind of try to strip some of that and go back to work, go back to the beginning, in the beginning of rehearsals, and stay open to the director and try to have the guts to experiment every rehearsal so that you can make discoveries and collect the good ones as you go and build a performance that way. You know, striving to be honest is something I did not come out of the hatch with in my 20s. I was, you know, trying too hard, and losing that was a great, wonderful thing. And my God, deep character work, a lot of prior life history. I do a bio, going as far back as I can, as specific as I can, as unemotional as I can, as Uta Hagen taught. I do an improv before an entrance on whatever that moment before was. Sometimes if you're not on right away, you have the luxury of being in some life, deeply in it, because you're on the phone with your husband about this thing that's maybe going to happen in the scene when you do enter, so that you enter fully alive and inside of it. My mother said to me, no, my husband said to me early on when I was still living in LA. We were living apart, but we were together. We were living on different coasts. And someone got some role I had tested for in a series. And he said to me, compare and despair. And man, that stuck. That stuck. Because if you compare yourself to your castmates negatively, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer if your confidence isn't as full and high as it can be. And the way that you can keep it that way is by working your ass off, as hard as they are. And also remembering there's no to anybody. So whatever I'm bringing to this character, they're bringing to that character. And I may think, oh, she's better than me. She's prettier than me. You know, those things are useless. Compare and despair. For sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have been listening intently as I have, she really just gave you a master class in a few minutes. I mean, I love Mimi's class. I mean, just, I can't even put into words how much I love being in her class. And I will say that she taught me to always begin at the beginning. I mean, that is a concept that a lot of actors still are working on, where they want to begin in the middle somewhere, but to make sure that your process and your artistry can fully come to life, always start at the beginning. And if you would learn how to do this with soul, I urge you to seek out Mimi Lieber in New York, attend her scene study class. It will transform your way of thinking. And I just put my stamp of approval on it. So one thing that we have mentioned, or you have mentioned, your life with director Daniel Sullivan. What is that like to be married to an artist such as he? And what project have you two worked on together?
Oh,
that
several.
You enjoyed?
What it's like being his partner is or I guess what you said is watching his artistry, something like that. You know, I guess I had to be with someone who just knocked me out, whose gift just blew me away. And that is him. And he was directing every minute. I mean, back to back, he'd go from rehearsal into the opening night, already rehearsing for the next one. It was constant rehearsal. And I was able to watch frequently. Certainly once it was in previews, I'd be watching, sitting next to him, holding his hand, listening to him live and die with every sentence, and heartbreak on the stage. And it's been an incredible education, even in as much as I don't think of us as equal in terms of our work, but I know it's been an incredible education. He never thought of it as a career, and he's worked for 65 years. He never thought of it as a career. It was just work. It was just doing the work. and he's notorious for developing new plays with writers. And there are a lot of plays out there that have Pulitzer Prizes, with no small thanks to Daniel Sullivan and Tony's and years on Broadway, and elsewhere. Important work. So I just admired him before I ever knew him well, and that went a long way to love staying what you need it to forever. And I choreographed about 6 plays for him, Shakespeare at the Delacorte. Those were the most joyous jobs together. He gave me just completely free rein, and yet would be there if I thought, is this not going on too long? Should we end the song earlier? Can we let me talk to the composer? But his respect for me and enjoyment of his trust in me was very, very high. And so I would just go off and create some stuff and show him in my own separate rehearsal room, bring it into where he was with other actors. And those were the most fun professional experiences, even though I wasn't performing. Just so fun collaborating like that. And at the Delacorte Theater in Central Park, and listening to William Shakespeare, Mother's Milk, it was a grand, long period.
What's the best piece of advice that you've received, and what could you share with those who want to be in your place?
Well, you'll be in your place, not mine. Well, my mother always said, my mother was she was a fantastically gorgeous person, but she was sort of a shy Midwestern girl. So, it's not like she was some grand persona, but she had some sayings that have lodged in me. And from earliest time, I remember her saying, what goes around comes around. So for her, that was the great law of the universe, was what goes around comes around. So you better be kind. And learning through her incredible giving soul, that being of service is the best antidote for depression. Not that my family ever used the word depression, but I know that to be true now. Giving and doing for others is the biggest healer there is. And she was a very joyful person. She'd tap dance in the kitchen and, teach me a soft shoe. And there was a lot of joy. And I'm a really joyous person by nature. Even if I'm down, I'm making jokes about myself. But so what goes around comes around. And you have to be a friend to have a friend. I remember that one from early days. It's so true. I mean, and just, I don't know if there's anything truer. And my husband's compare and despair. And also from my mother was trust your instincts. And that's the best thing I can tell you as an actor. But first you need to develop them. You get to a point where that first impulse is worth following because you've learned to trust your instincts. And that means walking down a dark alley and some dude is following you. That means getting into a car with somebody. That means seeing someone for lunch or coffee before you see them at night. I know that sounds old-fashioned, but the world is just as scary as it always was in some respects. And so trust your first instincts. What goes around comes around. Compare and despair. Those are good ones. And I'm a really good teacher, and I keep finding that I remember things from the hot major people I studied with, who miraculously were still alive when I was a little baby actor, and it was the 70s, and I managed to get myself into this class or that class, and I remember things they said that just come out sometimes in class. And so get yourself in front of people you respect and know you don't know anything, or know you know what you know, but there's always a world more to learn. Keep an open mind and make yourself happy.
Oh, I just so love listening to you, y'all. I'm just in heaven to my teacher, y'all. I'm so happy. All right. So we're about to move to the lightning round. I'm going to ask Mimi
Oh,
questions to get to know her even better as we have gotten to know her work. Are you ready, Mimi?
I guess.
All right, here's the first question. Dogs or cats?
Dogs. But I
All
love
right.
cats.
Okay. What book would you give as a gift?
Some Mary Oliver poetry book. A book of Mary Oliver's poems,
Okay.
especially to a woman over 40. It's just what I thought of.
Okay.
So many books. I'm a crazy reader, so that's a hard one. I love to read.
We can come back to this book question too. If it comes back and you have more books, please, I would love to have it shared on this interview. So next question. What movie can you not resist watching if it came on right now?
Godfather 2, Lawrence of Arabia, and for guilty pleasure, Devil Wears Prada.
Okay.
It is so lowbrow in comparison to these other kinds of masterpieces, but I can always get into it because to watch her is just to be mind blown.
All
But
right. Next.
Godfather 2 for sure, tops.
All right. What is your favorite recipe to cook?
Love to cook. I cook a lot of different things. But I always return to that most important barometer of a good cook, and that's a roasted chicken. I just love to make a roasted chicken. And fish. I'm a really good fisher.
Okay. What turns you on?
My husband? Do you mean that kind of thing? What turns me on?
Less PG. What makes Mimi really happy to be in a space like this is happening? This is on for me.
Ocean, ocean, and dancing.
Okay.
Any kind of dancing.
What makes you laugh the most?
I don't have mean humor, but there has been this text going around or a Facebook thing going around. Sorry, I'm trying to be lightning. I know it's lightning round. And it's people's most embarrassing moments. And it's crazy, hilarious stuff. And it's all true. And it looks like, it's in the form of texts or something like that. And it's like the thing the waitress said accidentally to the table. And I laugh so hard that I have cried. I have had things come out of my nose. I can't get air. If you ever see these things, but kills me every time. People's most embarrassing moments. I don't want to laugh at them, but hearing them tell them, I gotta say, cracks me up.
Okay. What would be your theme song or ringtone when you enter a room?
Well, it would be either Birth of the Cool or Kind of Blue, Miles Davis, both of those.
Yeah.
Or it would be like Afro-Cuban music.
Okay, I can get with that vibe. So if that music is on and you walk into a bar, what are you ordering to drink?
Well, it depends on which of those two, right? Often a martini or just a glass of Sauvignon Blanc.
Classic taste. If you could choose one superpower, what would it be?
Flying or invisibility?
Ooh.
I think flying and taking away people's pain. Right? If you could just go, and really know who to do it for.
Mm-hmm. And if you are a superhero with this ability, who would be your arch nemesis?
I don't even believe in that. Donald Trump, people who hate, people who are small, people who are racists, people who are anti-Semites, people who are bigots, small-minded, nasty, mean people who do not care for others.
Good answer. Good answer. Who is your favorite?
AKA,
Yeah,
it's all the same. Evil's evil.
it is. Evil is evil is evil. Yes. Who is your favorite person to follow on social media?
I don't follow anybody. I'm not on anything but Facebook. So I don't even know how a person answers that. But I have a lot of Facebook friends, and they're amazing. Most of them are professional actors or directors or costume designers. And so, I mean, they all have extraordinary posts. Does that mean anything?
Friends, people. She has a lot of amazing artists. So you need to connect with her on Facebook, and she's going to give information on how you can reach out to her on Facebook, people. One more question.
And you people, reach out, always be with people higher than yourself, to be lifted up always.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Your last question.
Yes. We'll have two more. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would like to be a world-class cello player. I can't play the cello, PS, at all. And that's all I'm going to say, because frankly, there are a million things I'd like to do. A lot of them have to do with physical adventure, outdoors adventure. But God, I would love to play the cello.
If anybody's listening to this podcast, let's see if we can connect Mimi to a celloist and
A
get
cello
her
teacher.
get her some lessons in, so she can fulfill this other idea she has for herself, people, because she is multifaceted, so she can do that too if she so wants. And last question, who would you like to give some shout outs to, or I call love outs to, who have been supportive on your journey?
Oh my goodness, so many.
Oh, we can name them all.
Teacher Louise Cabral, if I believe she's still with us. Paula Vogel, who is a hero to many, and a brilliant playwright and teacher and activist. And she wrote Indecent. And two girls in school, three kids in school in Florida, just reached out to our cast because they were doing Indecent in high school, and because of Ron DeSantis, the school board cut off the production. And leave it to Paula Vogel, our playwright, to get involved. We've had Zooms with these kids. We are going to get this production done by hook or by crook. And all kinds of people have come out of the woodwork. Jeremy O'Harris, actors that, so she's one. You shout out, thank yous. My big brother, Matt, my big sister, Carol, Aretha Franklin, who pulled me through so much, just in that way that she would, not because I know her or knew her. Teachers, Ken McMillan, who I pray to every minute, right before the curtain opens, I just ask him to come down. My mother. I know there are famous people I want to say, but I can't think of them right now. I'm so sorry.
No worries. And of course, a big love out to your wonderful husband, Daniel, who is just as gracious as you can imagine a loving and supportive husband to be. I was so gracious to be invited into his space where he works, and to watch him do what he does, and to see the love he has for his wife. And it's just a beautiful thing. So I have to make sure that his name is also mentioned in the last beat of this.
100%.
Yes, we love him. So, folks, we have come to the end of this spotlight for today's artist. If this podcast has helped you, please share, and be sure to follow Dream of Drea across all social media platforms. My name is Drea of Dream of Drea, production company specializing in driving ideas from pages to stages, and from your dreams to screens. Wherever you are, please remember that right now is the perfect time to act on your dreams. Thank you to Mimi Lieber, who has shared her experience And we hope to join you in the next episode. Until then, take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Thank you, Drea. And I can be reached on Facebook.
Yes, please. I will put in the description box how to get in contact with Mimi. Again, if you are an actor in training and you need some place to go that is a safe space to help grow your artistry, I cannot say enough. Go see Mimi. She's one of the reasons why I was able to graduate and get my master's degree and to go to her classes afterwards. I love this woman with all of my heart. And yes,
back at you.
Yes. So until next time, people, take care, okay?
Bye. Thank you, Drea.
You're welcome. Hold on.